Okay, so I will be not talking about any of my research because this is just I'm taking mainly from K.R. Kennedy's book God Apes Fossil Men. He has mentioned about the historiography of bioarchaeological studies in South Asia, South Asian Iron Age. Basically, I will be taking some of the references from his work actually. So, so I will start my presentation. So I will be covering these points. So as you can see in the India map, the most of the megalithic sites, they are from the below Narmada, actually. Like there are few in the Uttarakhand and some are in a little bit from the Uttarakhand, and then you are having a little bit in the north. But mainly if you see it's like Narmada divides the megalithic sites, like many of them, most of them are coming from southern part. And so the points are covered here are something like talking about actually megalithomania. This name was from the Kennedy's book only. So he's basically how the colonial powers actually explored Indian subcontinent and how they kind of understood understood megalithic cultures and population, mainly from the racial classification of megalithic population. Then something I will be talking about the contribution generally trained from the German anthropologists. They had a very big impact on German anthropology and their anthropology. So they were also continuing talking about the racial classification uh, this megalithic population, and different ways of looking at skeletons, and some new development and some new insights into human skeletal studies mainly. As you can see, there are like around 59 like sites which are provided. This might be number might be increased by the time, like this was compiled around 2015. So by that, after that, might be there are some 6 7 sites or 10 15 sites include may have increased the number of sites where human remains are being found. But unfortunately, many of these sites are not being studied from anthropological point of view. First problem with the megalithic is there are as you must have been hearing, like human remains are in a very fragmentary conditions. It's very difficult to work on megalithic burials because they are very fragmentary, very sometimes you are having like all mixed up material. Currently we are working on the A.I.H.C's material from Kodumanal, and when I see those bones on the table, it's like big headache because everything is mixed, everything is like there are more than 3 individuals on my table, but I don't know which bone goes with which person. So it's a big problem with the megalithic. Still, it's a welcome efforts by many archaeologists who wants to conduct anthropological analysis on these bones. So coming to the history of the studies, anthropological, I will be talking about only from the anthropological point of view and not from the archaeology. There are many colonial explorer done lot of studies on a lot of documentation on the megalithic burials from southern part of India and mainly from southern part of India. But I will be talking mainly related to the skeletons. So it is like Bobbington in 1823, he described so he was the first one, and it was from Kerala. He documented the first gigantic mushroom near Malabar, and he was unable to date this monument because there is nothing, no sign was there for no. So he tried to understand the megalithic, but he reported the legend of the diminutive race of people through pygmies were responsible for these structures. So according to his idea, they were the small people who built this gigantic mushroom type of structure. And unfortunately, he could not say anything about their people because they were in a very bad, poor state of preservation, and it was not possible for to do any kind of scientific study. Then after that, you are having the Godfrey Higgins, a contemporary, and he said about the population of megalithic is that these burials complexes were Celtic and documented the ethnic link between the Europe and the Asia in ancient times. So this was again, it started like there are megalithic structures outside India, and probably those people who came here or we had some kind of a linkage, ethnic linkage, or some cultural influence on these people in southern part of India, and then that how you got this kind of megalithic structures. Then the captain R. Young, he was reported ancient graves in Andhra Pradesh, uh, uh, and then the territory there was in Hyderabad, near Hyderabad, and he said that included earthen vessels, pots, pieces of human skulls, bones, teeth, which crumble to dust. Means basically he's talking about again the poor quality of human material which was encountered while doing excavation. And still he could not understand the bones were exposed, but he could understood, sorry, he could understood that it was a actually cremated bones he is looking at, because when you say that exposed to the fire before interment means it was a cremated bones, which is very common when we talk about megalithic practices. Himanshu has given us some samples from his ethnographic material. Also, they were also from the cremated bones context. So it's very common to collect the bones and keep it in the megalithic structure, and it's kind of a burial practices they were doing it. So when we come little ahead, like Captain Harkins is, he said that the Todas and they had the connection between the modern day Todas and these population which is seen in the megalithic structures. So Captain H. Congreve excavated megalithic tomb near Pulikon. I'm sorry, I couldn't pronounce that name, in 1844. Thus was the romantic theme of Dravidism applied to the ancient and living peoples of South Asia. So it is like how we are seeing this Dravidian population and their relationship with this megalithic population. Then Walter Elliot criticized Congreve's theories that his crane hunting, because mainly what was happening is this all explorer, even though they are documenting these megalithic structures, they are actually disturbing many of these crane circles, many of these because they wanted to get more and more antiquities. So they were mainly the hunters, kind of, they wanted to hunt these antiquities and put it into some museum, either in India or in outside India mainly. So you can see later also there are a lot of huntings happen, and a lot of people try to, took out the samples from it. And not only just the explorers, some people who, some British officers went for some picnic to some area where the megalithic structures are there, and from there they kind of took out some souvenirs for themselves and took them. So that way, so many things happened in during that time, that colonial people, during it was one way you can see that they were very good in making us aware of our own heritage, but on the other hand they also were the people who disturbed many of these structures. So according to the coming to the Eliot, like he said that the megalithic stone structure should be attributed to the ancient Kurumbaras, another tribal group whose ancestor gained political dominance over the peninsular India during around like 3rd century BC. So he also tried to say that the contemporary Kurumbaras tribe is associated with these megalithic structures. And he kind of to furnish the Madras Government Museum with artifacts. James Wilkinson Briggs despoiled over 50 graves in his territory. So kind of, again crane hunting, again the grave hunting was happened officially for to get the material for the museum. And he and his contemporary were remiss in not preserving any human skeletal remains found in the course of excavation. So they were not, they did not kind of store that material in a proper manner. So when we talk about the one of the bioarchaeological or bioanthropological work done on the megalithic, so Meadows Taylor was very prominently seen that he excavated. There was like in Georgi in Maharashtra, he excavated that site, and he was the first one who kind of described the anatomical features. As you can see here, there are many. This is a sketch in that his article, and you can see there are a lot of crane circles are seen, and out of that he has kind of done the section drawing here. And this is the first case where it has been described like little bit of prognathism is seen here, and he kind of tried to kind of um, describe how the skull is, how the morphology of the skulls, and he presented that paper in 1851. And he said that these megalithic monuments were the relics of the Celtic and Scythian influence. And he conducted near so he correctly distinguished. So basically when he was excavating, he could identify there are certain bones which are in a cremation, which are kept in the after the cremation has undertaken. So he could identify on the basis of bones that which one is complete bone and which one is kind of cremated. But it was not but he could do that. He could do some analysis on the age and sex and particular morphological features of the skulls, as well as some postcranial bones as well. So after that, George Rule tore apart cranes, some in Nugar, Haut Nugar, and donated artifacts, including human bones, animal bones, to the local museum. Unfortunately, all these local museums, we do not know what material went to these local museums, because they are not being published, they are not being studied. So we do not know exactly how much material is being in these local museums. Like Stuart Fraser or Coloniadora gave their finds to Hathi Pala and Devar Konda Timuli to Royal Society of Bombay, in Bombay. Unfortunately, with this material, in between the transport, these bones were kind of misplaced. So we do not know where those bones are. The trunk is missing, so we don't know where those bones are. So it is this kind of things happened a lot. So when Dr. Bell, who excavated Devar Nunga in Hyderabad, some human skeletal materials from Bell's exploration and excavation was transferred to Royal Irish Academy, Dublin. So this is a Rustumji Vikaji. He was one very, what you can say, he transported a lot of material to Dublin. And he was kind of, after British officers, they came to know, they kind of acted little bit about it, and they kind of tried to stop that person for sending the material. But some material is still there in Dublin from the megalithic context. Then Robert Caldwell excavated urn burials in Korkai and Kyle on the Coromandel coast in early 1870s, and he made a great contribution in paleoanthropology while observing the skeletal material. He observed that these are the representative persons with normal size, which earlier thought to be pygmies or short-heighted or something related to the Negro population. So he thought that he told that these are of the normal size. He was actually a pastor, and where in all probability the ancestor of the present inhabitants of the landscapes, of which means basically he kind of try to do the parallel between the modern day population or the present population and these megalithic burials. And after that, you are having the major Godfrey Pierce and James Ferguson. They also contributed to the formation of the theories of this population with Negroid or Proto-Australoid. All this population and all these names came into when we are talking about the megalithic population description. So this is one of the very interesting case, that curious case of Aditanalur. Aditanalur is the site which mesmerize all the archaeologists till now, archaeologists or anthropologists. It's one of the biggest site where the urn burials are been getting. You people will be knowing much better than me, because I have read about it little bit here and there, but then some of you must have visited also this site. Unfortunately, I think it's cursed site, because 1816 this site has been excavated numerous times, and the bones are being taken out, the material has been taken out, and everything is happened with the site, but nothing came kind of very when you talk about scientific analysis, nothing came out of the Aditanalu. So it's like it's in a way it's a really bad state. Like people want to know about this population, people want to know about this site, this skeletons and everything, but we do not have any scientific up to date record of the site. So I think it's a more of a cursed site than the curious site. So when we talk about the first case like the jogger, he excavated in 1876. He with Stuart, he raided the site. So it's not excavation; it's a raiding of the. It's kind of going at and trying to take out whatever is there. So raided the urn fields of Ajitanallur and artifacts and human skeletons in order to supply the museum in Berlin. So Jager's contribution to that establishment was first significant collection of Indian skull to enter Europe. So that was the first time it went other than the India, it went out in Berlin. The site was visited again with the Lapusque, who was from the French national. He was a French national. He removed two skulls from the site and he put that in Paris, that particular museum. It's very difficult to pronounce these names, sorry. So he said that they are from the Negroid and Proto-Dravidian element. So he kind of got very excited because he did some of the work on ethnography and ethnographical measurement like somatometry, what we call it, the population measurement of that particular time. It got, yeah, and after that he kind of seen these skulls, two skulls, and he kind of took that they are the something called as a negrotoid or proto-dravidian elements can be seen in those two skulls. Then Alexander Ree, after archaeological survey, so in that like archaeological survey that time got little worried about this hunting of and raiding of the Adityanallur remains, and so they kind of took the excavation and they excavated like 5-acre portion of 114 acre. So that is a big site, Adityanallur. And since 1899, he excavated that site till 1904, and he collected the remains of 14 individuals, and which were found in flex position and large subterranean urns. They were examined by the Edith Thurston. So in 1909. So the first study of the Adityanallur skeleton involved both morphometric and comparative analysis of the 6 skulls from the series of what Alexander re-excavated. And he said that could be assigned to some of the racial types described racially and gate what he published in which was published in Census of India. So this was it's also beginning of the Adityanallur question of the question or to answer for the who were these Adityanallur population. In 1930, the two skulls, which from the Adityanallur series from 16 specimens was published. Then the obscure anatomist called Grafton Elliot Smith from London, and he published few documentation about this skulls. But main work was done by the Soli Zuckerman. Actually, he did not see the skulls by himself. He just saw some photographs and some writings of the Elliot Smith, and he published on the basis of his observation that Australoid racial type and the other one is Dravidian type. So he kind of took those skulls and put it as a kind of a hallmark for the entire Adityanallur population. That one is related to Australoid and another is Dravidian type. The Adityanallur material pirated by Jagar were not examined until 1966. Hill K.R. Kennedy himself went there and visited the museum and studied the material. And he published the material, or he published the research. Unfortunately, B.S. Guha from Anthropological Survey of India, he visited this France and Germany in 1930s, and he did the analysis, he measured those skulls which were there in the museum's custody. but he could not publish it before, could not publish it, and he died before publishing it. And unfortunately, whatever his research was there, whatever documentation he had done, it was disappeared. So till now, we don't have any research done by any earlier research done by B.S. Guha. Whatever we have having some of them the K.R. Kennedy's analysis. So the another Indian visitors who went to Paris, also called B.K. anthropologists, um, like B.K. Chatterjee and his colleague P. Gupta from Anthropological Survey of India, and they measured and compared this all these 14 specimens in collection of Madras, but did not include the description of the material in the museums of Paris. And they continue the same thing, like the phenotype features of the Attitanolar crania to be mosaic of racial traits, proposing that for any given specimens in the series there would be discerned varying degrees of multiple racial types. So they said that there are presence of multiple racial types, not only just Australoid or Dravidian or Proto-Australoid or these kind of, it's a Negrotoid. So it is a mixture and mosaic, both of the different racial types. Then SS Sarkar reports on the skeletons of Brahmaguri. So this was till 1960s. After that Aditanallur was excavated in 2004 and 5 by Archaeological Survey of India, and recently the Tamil Nadu state government, they are also going to excavate, or they have excavated last year. So they also have some of so, but still there is no proper report on anthropology. I'm not talking about archaeology, I'm talking about from the anthropological point of view. There is no proper report on Aditanallur skeletons or the composite report on every whatever is preserved here in India or outside. No composite reports of the skeleton. So unfortunately, even though site is so prominent and so well preserved skeletal material, do not cannot help us to understand about their population. Uh, so when we talk about from the other Indian anthropologists, so we are having the SS Sarkar's report on the Brahmagiri that excavated by Wheeler, and he kind of removed 10 megalithic material was taken out from the 10 megalithic graves, and 13 years later he kind of studied those material, and he differed from Zuckerman's whatever he told, and he in his thesis that racial homogeneity characterized in the megalithic. So he kind of said that it's a compilation of multiple racial types rather than only two types of population. So Sarkar's morphometric study of 16 adults led him to conclude that mesobrachycranic individuals made up the majority of the population at Musky as at Brahmagiri, and that these people were typical of the megalithic builders. K.R. Kennedy examined 5 crania, 20 teeth, and various postcranial bones from Raigir, and it reinforced the earlier hypothesis that the phenotypic diversity rather than the homogeneity characterized the megalithic builders. So definitely it's not one population. It is not like when you talk about megalithic population overall, it's not one population. It depends on the locality where you are having different types of population. Rumragar skulls from Bihar was studied was were studied in the British Museum of Natural History by Guha. So basically, that material also went out of India in 1930. Before that, and but did not publish a description. But later, Kennedy published. So we have very good anthropological or morphometric analysis of Rumragar by Kennedy, which was published in 1972. The morphometric features shows Dolichocrani, Mesokaminorini, like medium size nose, high cranial vault, and low cranial capacity. It is possible that the Rumagar series should be set within the phenotype patterns of the tribal population of the ancient copper belt of Chota Nagpur. So again, it's a local population, and Rumragar skulls are not like in huge number. There are two Rumragar skulls, so there is not much data which can be used for these kind of analysis. There are many Indian anthropologists other than that who worked on the racial classification. I'm not going to tell you because it will go on, like I will talking on more than 1 hour then. So just these are just to giving you brief briefs of whatever work done on the megalithic skeleton. When we talk about the beyond racial classification, it started, the train started from Kennedy when he studied the Tadkanhalli and Kumaranhalli, these specimens in 1988. And he kind of started talking about the health status of the individual, how this kind of farming, ancient farming, the measurement from the dentition, like TCM or total crown area or molar crown area, how it is changing according to the species are the usually associated with the ancient farming and herding communities. Some 28 skeletal specimens were recovered. Pathology of the nutrition from the Mahurzari dentition, Mahurzari specimens in 1981. Lucas published data on dental analysis of this. Unfortunately, these particular specimens were studied by Kennedy, and the report has not been published yet. But here he says that Lucas worked on the enamel hypoplasia and as well as the dental caries, and he who interpreted moderate incidences of dental caries and stress-related dental disease to indicate diet high in carbohydrates. So he, on the basis of the 7.7, he said that is the percentage of dental caries he could identify on the Mahurzari dentition. And it's like a mixed economy, not entirely on the based on the agriculture, not entirely based on the pastoral community, pastoral activities, but it's kind of a mixture of both the subsistence. Walimbe sir undertook studies on the teeth of the two individuals from Raipur as well as isolated teeth from the graves of Burgaon and Khairwada. And then he also studied other individuals and then the cremation pattern and how it has been, two individuals from the Khairwada and one individual from Raipur, how the cremation has taken place and all those things. Here I would love, it's not mentioned here, but Walimbe and Mohanty sir, they published one paper on the basis of how much time is required to create one megalithic circle. So how the society interact with each other, with the economy, what kind of economy can, support these kind of building of megalithic activity. So all this is beyond racial type, it's all beyond understanding the population, how it is adapting, how it is trying to cope up with changing of environment, changing of the a subsistence pattern and other thing. One of his very interesting paper is Walimbe and Silva. They published in 1998. It's on based on the weapon injury from S. Papinayak and Patti. One of the very interesting feature they identified is the kind of cutting out the rare portion of the skull. So how metal technology, how it is, how the from the paleopathological point of view, how we can identify the medical knowledge, what kind of medical knowledge they were having. So all these things can be understood if you have a proper recording of the material or proper anthropological analysis can be used. So this is just to give you brief one or two. So this was published in 2003. It's from the Kudatini sarcophagus, and we could identify within the sarcophagus there were pots, and within the pots there were different skeletal elements were kept. So we can identify this was a child, 6-year-old child, and we did not find any um, pathological very means or nutritional stress markers, but the child was there, and we could identify. So on this we can identify the type of burial practices they were going through. So it is secondary burial, otherwise you will not get the part of some part of jaw in one pot and another is outside within the sarcophagi. So this is one, and this is the Kodumanal, which is really very I appreciate Rajan sir's efforts. He was really keen into working on the Kodumanal series, and we published a paper also. We published a book also on this bit, and it's one of the site which has been completely studied from the paleopathological, morphological point of view, and you can have a lot of insights into population. Like we could identify the nutritional insults or nutritional stress markers on the child. We identified certain occupational stress related markers from the Kodumanal site. So it was really good to work on these kind of bones. Unfortunately, the bones were there, which were preserved in a better context. So this is sorry. So nutrients, what I feel should be considered when you're anybody wants to work on the megalithic population. Like we should think about dating the monuments, then the paleo demographic features, which has some limitation obviously, because the it has the megalithic itself has some limitation of having the material. Then genetic affinities. If we have bones, then we can try to get, but again genetic is not foolproof science. You have a lot of issues with that, so you should be very careful when you are trying to interpret that from the genetic point of view. Then adaptation to the local ecological variations, what kind of where the population is and how they are able to accommodate themselves in the or adapt themselves to different population or different ecological zones. Then health and disease, definitely paleopathology has a lot of scope and lot of understanding about how they have adapted to the ecological variations. Growth and development, how probably we can talk about, this is archaeologist problem actually. What is the settlement size and dating of the monument and other thing? This is archaeology, but then the archaeologists should take up the or anthropology, archaeology. They have to come together, or genetic studies, they have to come together to understand. Even the ethnoarchaeological researches, which will help us to understand about these patterns. We may, I'm not telling that you have to have one-to-one context, but you can get some indications of these practices through the ethnoarchaeological research. And thank you.